So on to question number 2. Will the cost of this new type of apartment be exorbitant, making it suitable only for the high-end market? To answer this question, we designed a 30-story prototype so that it can be compared with conventional types of apartments and help explain how the new concept provides for circulation more efficiently. In this design prototype, apartments face landscape 6-story high sky courts. 274 apartment units are served by 16 of these sky courts, each courtyard typically consisting of 16 duplex apartments. On the ground floor of the podium block are the entrance lobby, shops, and the service and utility rooms. On the first to third floors are car parks. On the podium level are 18 apartments, community and prayer halls, and a bigger green area. These are the floor plans for the apartments facing the sky courts on the east and west. And these are the floor plans for the apartments facing the north and south sky courts. To investigate the circulation space advantage of the Sky Neighbourhood apartment, an analysis of the built-up area breakdown of the 30-story design prototype was undertaken. Space usage was divided into 5 categories: apartment interior, the apartment external area, the front yard of the unit, which is saleable, the shared communal sky court area, circulation space, comprising corridors, lift lobby, and staircases, and finally, services. This tabulation is that of a typical courtyard and the 3 stories of apartments that are accessed from it. The table shows that with the Sky Neighbourhood, the circulation space is only 4.32% of the total floor area served by it. With service areas added in, the percentage for circulation plus services is only 5.1%. In fact, this is a remarkably low figure. To really appreciate this fact, let's now look at some examples of high-rise apartments with conventional layouts. Conventional high-rise apartment layouts may be categorized by the method of access to each apartment: single or double loading corridors for slab blocks and central lobbies for tower blocks. This is the Belfront and Trellick Towers in London with a single loading corridor. The single loading corridor balcony access allows the apartments to have windows against the access balcony as well as the external wall on the other side. This arrangement is not very efficient, especially with a standalone lift tower. Circulation here takes up 21.06% of the total floor area. That's quite high, but not very much higher than the single loading corridor apartments that are the norm in Singapore. Apartments with a central loading corridor is more efficient, serving apartments on 2 rows along it. However, the apartments it serves are only able to have windows on the external wall. They sometimes have internal airwells along the double loading corridors. But compared with a single loading corridor, the ventilation and light from these airwells are not so good. This is a view of Vinegary Apartments in Puchong, Selangor, with a double loading corridor. Here, circulation makes up 16.03% of the total floor area. This is the Blues Point Tower in Sydney. In the tower block, apartments are positioned around a central lift lobby. In this setup, there is a minimum of corridor space, but on the other hand, the number of units that can be served by the single lift lobby is limited. Here, the efficient arrangement of circulation space is offset by the rather inefficient sharing of lifts by a small number of housing units. In this tower block, circulation takes up 11.9% of the floor area. The lift only serves 7 units on this floor. This table shows the 3 examples of conventional layout plans and compares them with the Sky Neighbourhood design, where the circulation spaces, including any corridors and services, occupy less than 5.1%. In contrast, the circulation space for conventional apartments range from 11.9% to 21%. Indeed, circulation space in the Sky Neighbourhood design is minimized to less than any existing type of apartment. The sellable apartment space, inclusive of the respective private gardens, is about 86.5% of the available space. This compares Well, with the sellable apartment area making up about 79 to 88% of the total area in the conventional apartment. Some may suggest that the courtyard area or portion of it should actually be counted as circulation space. Actually, any space or room will have within it some circulation space. For example, a living room contains within it a portion that is used to move around, but by convention, we simply call it the living room. And when one measures and displays its area, one doesn't minus away the circulation space within that room. By contrast, the corridor is a monofunctional space. Its space is to allow for movement from one area to another and does not have other uses. So it is categorized as circulation space. Displaying the sky court area without deducting the circulation space makes sense and is consistent with accepted convention. Even when counting in the shared gardens or communal courtyard area as circulation space, the total for it at 13.5% is lower than that achieved in the majority of conventional apartments. This is a very substantial efficiency improvement that is all the more remarkable because it is achieved by making the apartment design more attractive, not less, by extending the benefits of having a landscape courtyard to every apartment. Indeed, the introduction of the courtyard is the key to it. In another study, the Sky Neighbourhood apartments are compared with 6 examples from the last 60 years of high-rise social housing in Singapore. The floor areas of each of the Sky Neighbourhood and historical examples are broken down according to function and then compared with one another. The analysis undertaken show that the new concepts paired with the examples require much less circulation space. The provision of shared open areas is also analyzed and shows that the Sky Neighbourhood layout provides more open spaces within the block footprint and that these areas are more visible and accessible from the apartments. Another factor for cost reduction is the provision of lifts. The lifts in the Sky Neighbourhood model only need to stop every 3 floors at the courtyard levels. From the entrance level to each apartment, residents walk up 1 floor or down 1 floor to get to their bedrooms. In this 30-story example, only 9 stops are required on the 27-story tower block. I used an online calculator provided by Kony on the design site. When I entered lift stops at every one of the 27 residential floors, the calculator estimated that 3 lifts were needed. However, when I entered the actual lift stops required, which is 9, the calculator estimated that only 2 lifts were needed. The Neighbourhoods in the Sky apartment layout is a new approach to solving the problem of circulation and intermediate spaces in high-rise apartments. The corridors are replaced with spacious sky courts. Remember that corridors are non-saleable areas that actually cost money to build. Yes, extra costs will certainly be incurred to construct and landscape the 6-story high sky courts. However, savings arising from totally eliminating corridors and reducing lift stops can claw back much of the extra costs. Whilst images of corridors can hardly be used to help sell an apartment, about 40% of the courtyard is saleable area, whilst the balance can be marketed as a desirable communal amenity and as a unique selling point. According to this argument, house buyers will be more than willing to pay for the extra cost of outdoor private and communal gardens. Then there is the cost of land, which in city center development is far more important than the cost of construction. This 274 apartment building on a small site of 1.89 acres produces a plot ratio of 4.9 and a density of 145 units an acre, which is far above the current planning standard in Malaysia, which is only 60 units per acre. If planning authorities can accept the argument that high-rise housing can be socially acceptable, then they might be persuaded to approve a higher density.